we're live.
Now
Yep.
it's live.
Yeah.
Facebook is catching up, so if anybody's joining us already, thank you for being here. Facebook is doing their little catch up, and we will see you guys in just a second. If you can, go ahead and share this to your news feeds so that we can get more people joining us. And
yeah, because this story is a story that you're not going to hear anytime soon. It's one of the bravest stories I've ever heard in 34 years working in mental health. And we'll introduce you to our amazing guest in a moment. So we'll just make sure everything's working on Dawn's end.
It says it is. We're going to trust them, right? Okay. So, all right. I am Dawn McCarty, and thank you for joining Humanly Possible. Tonight we have our guest, Alyse Wu, and I want to tell you ahead of time. What's that?
Oh, I was just pointing to her, like on the Brady Bunch.
I gotcha.
Who am I, Jan?
Anyway, I want to let everybody know that this is a real, true story. This is a very real story, and it can be very triggering. So we're going to take it slow, and we're going to just let her share her story. And there's a lot of survivors out there of this type of childhood trauma and childhood sexual abuse, and it's a very serious thing, but we have an amazing advocate here, actually two amazing advocates. So at this time, I want to turn it over to Alyse Price-Tobler so she can introduce herself, and then we'll go right into talking about more with Alyse Wu.
Okay, so hi, welcome everybody to Humanly Possible. On Humanly Possible, each week we try and interview people who are major advocates in the field of child abuse, and often we'll bring in adult survivors of child abuse too, to have a voice for the child, so that we can talk and let people know what it's truly like and what to look for, and how to have a voice if you see anything like what you're about to hear actually happening in your world, because sometimes it's very shocking and sometimes we don't know how to handle it. But Alyse is going to speak about what it was like for her as a child growing up in a very serious situation of child sexual abuse. It's a very, very raw, heartfelt story. I know Alyse's story. She shared it with me before. I've been honoured and blessed to have heard it before, and it's absolutely a story worth sharing. And I am so happy that she's here in our group to speak today. So I would like to welcome with my whole heart Alyse Wu, and we are so happy that you're here, Alyse. So welcome to you. Yes, I can't do it. There it is.
Thank you.
Yes.
Welcome.
Yes, welcome.
Thank you. My pleasure. So I am a child abuse advocate. When I was 2 years old, well, first, let me start at the beginning. First, I want to tell you that I was adopted. So I was adopted into this family. So these people are not my parents. So I refer to them as monsters. So when you hear that, you know who I'm talking about, the mother and the father. So they adopted me, and I have done EMDR, if any of you know what that is. It's a specialty, and I have regressed memories that came back a lot, and also I had to move into the house where I was abused for my whole life for my husband's family, but I'll get into that after. So when I was 2 years old, my father molested me several times, and he was an alcoholic. He was a drunk. That does not make it right. And as I grew, I basically I knew something was wrong with me, and I knew there was something wrong that was going on because I wasn't doing well in school. I didn't want anyone touching me. I wasn't outgoing. Like, you know, I was just a kid that kind of hid in a corner all the time. So the teachers never noticed me, you know, and that's a red flag. When you see a child in a corner, in a room, in a kindergarten room or in a first grade room, and they're sitting in a corner and they're all by themselves, there may be something going on. It may not just be that they're, you know, shy. So as I got older, it turned into more of me fighting back. I started hitting back, and then I started getting hit. So I got black eye. Give me 1 second. He pulled my hair all the time. And he hit me with belts. And what he would do is he noticed I started fighting back. And, you know, so to calm me down, he would put alcohol into these jars with fruit, like peaches or something.
How old are you at this stage?
I'm about 9.
9.
I said 7, 8, yeah, 7, 8, 9. And he literally, I watched him do it. He put like bourbon or Jack Daniels into like a jar of peaches. So the fruit would, you know, get the alcohol. So I would be out like a light. So I would wake up with these things on my chest and my clothes off, not knowing what happened. Then as I got older, I became really defiant. I mean, I would run away. I would, you know, run to my friend's house, and nobody believed me because my father and my mother had everybody believing that I was crazy and that I was the black sheep of the family. So, and I wasn't. I was just a kid, you know. I started drinking at the age of 11 or 12. I became, I guess you could call an alcoholic. I was drinking Jack Daniels, and I drank for a couple of years, till I was like 16 years old, because I couldn't deal with what was going on around me. Trigger here. People, please trigger point. I tried to kill myself. I tried to shoot myself with a gun several times. My mother was sick. She had multiple sclerosis, and that is not an excuse to treat a child the way I was treated. She called me slut, whore. I could never figure out why, because a lot of the memories as a child, you tend to somehow your brain protects you from certain things that happen to you, and then they come out as you get older. I used to have to change her diaper, and I had to take care of her because she was a very mean woman. I hope I'm not jumping around.
That's okay. Just speak. You just keep speaking about what you'd like to have the story, and I can fill in pieces if you like.
Okay. So several times she told me that I was nothing, and that I should just leave the earth to kill myself. And my father had a gun, and I put it to my head, and I tried. And I got so scared that I dropped the gun. And then I threw the gun into the garden behind our house because I was afraid that I would do it. And if I threw it outside, I couldn't do it. So it was like getting rid of, something that was something I wanted to do at the time when I was a kid, didn't know any better. And then all of a sudden, it turned into rape. And I would be screaming and crying, and nobody was there. Nobody heard me. I was bleeding. There was no rape kits. There was nothing for kids back then. And I remember waking up one day, and I remember that I was bleeding, I guess sodomy it's called. And I was bleeding through that area, and I was hurting, and I couldn't figure out why. I think I was drugged. And I flipped out. I didn't know what was wrong with me. I thought that, something ripped or whatever. Then there used to be a woman that used to watch my mom, and I kind of bonded with her a little bit, and she knew what was going on because my father asked her to have sex with him. So, I wouldn't really tell her anything, but when I was crying, she was there. And then there was my aunt, who would always take me away on the weekends to our house to get me away from him. And she would take me and my mother on a plane to Florida or anywhere just to get away from I think she did it for me. When I got to know her while she was dying, and it just, I see so many children that have a lot of stories like mine. And my story can't be the only one. Something has to be similar there. And as I now go back to the EMDR, which I stopped before, I started doing that, and at first I didn't like it because memories come back from the technique that they use. Then after the EMDR, moved back into a house I didn't want to move back into because my husband's father had a heart attack and they didn't have any money. So I was left what I called blood money and left the house. So I invited them into the house, and that's when my sanity, I lost it. It was too much for me. And I had children, so I didn't realize that I was the one who was always stuck in my head. Oh, this happened to me, and that happened to me, and that happened to me. And I'm good when I'm angry. I am powerful when I'm angry, right? I stayed in that state. I even did boxing classes and everything. And I had two kids who, when I got in that frame of mind, I wasn't their mom. I was just sitting there, right? Then I got help after I had my fourth son. And I have 4 kids, my fourth son. And I got more psychiatric help. And a psychiatrist because I needed to know why I had these feelings. You know, I didn't want to live like this anymore. How can a person live? You're not living if you're living in that state of mind. So that's where the healing process starts. And it hurts. Because you're forced to relive everything all over again. And how old are you? You're like 20, 25 years old? That's that. You think that a child or woman, man is out of danger after they're done with the attack? They're not. Now it's the mind. The mind has to be, how come I don't think like they do? Because my mind was traumatized. I didn't know at the time. And then people would wonder why I don't think like they do. What's wrong with her? And then and that was embarrassing. And the more I did the psychology with psychologists and the psychiatrists, the more I understood myself. And I had to heal myself. So my kids, my oldest two, didn't get the full mom experience from me because I was in a dark place. My other two that came later on did. And I apologized to them so many times because it's a regret I have. It's unfair that women, children, men who go through things like this, doesn't have to necessarily be my story. It could be something like it. And then those people are gone. And now you're sitting in front of your life and you are forced to deal with your life, because if you don't get better, your life's not going to get better. So it's like you relive everything you did. You see, you get flashbacks of everything that person did to you. You have to learn how to, with the EMDR, you learn how to look at it like an outsider. It's just it has such a place in my heart that, like, even when I watch TV and I see these things, I start crying. But then something happened. I started to release the anger. Anger wasn't helping me anymore. I went to church and I was baptized at the age of 28, Catholic. And you learn about forgiveness. Forgiveness, in my head, what is forgiveness? I'm not forgiving them. What do I forgive them for? Oh, you have to forgive. And I never understood it until one day somebody put it, you have to forgive yourself first, then you have to forgive them. And then when you forgive them, you can let go of what they did to you. But it's still there. Okay, it's still there. So then you learn to live with panic attacks and depression and flashbacks, and you can handle them better than you did before. So I am still going through this process. A lot of my writing is about what I'm going through now. It kind of evolved with me, I guess. I just want people to hear my voice. I want people to hear the voices of the silent children and the silent women and the silent men who are afraid. Please hear me. You need to talk. You need to find somebody to talk to. The best people to talk to are a psychiatrist, a friend, someone who understands what you are going through, that can tell you, oh, this is why you feel that way. Otherwise, the drugs come in, the alcohol comes in, and the confusion comes in.
So, Alyse, can I ask you a question?
Yes.
Do you feel, because a lot of people we know who have serious child psychological and sexual abuse have big wounds that are very open a lot of the time, and what you're saying is, please speak to somebody, get some help instead of going into addiction to self-soothe and to just fill that hole. Try and find a different way to work with that wound.
Yes. I know you help a lot. I mean, at least you helped people like me. Even you help a lot of people. Dawn helps a lot of people. I don't have a PhD, but I have experience.
Honey, you have a PhD in child sexual abuse. Really. You don't need to go to school to know about what that's like. You have more experience in that field than anybody else at university who does not have that experience.
You have the lived experience.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Which is so valuable. And as somebody who has the childhood trauma and the degree, having the childhood trauma experience puts us in a different camp. We understand when we're sitting in front of people what's happening within them a lot of the time. It's a different space. That's where you come from. That's what makes the difference a lot of the time. That space is a very, very powerful space, and to be able to do the healing, and your timeline is absolutely amazing. The fact that you're here speaking to us on this level is amazing, because so many people, if they experienced what you went through, can't sit here in this space with us and talk about that. So you are like a total warrior.
You know, and another thing too, and this is not something that any one of us, desire to achieve, but you've become a subject matter expert in this, and you provide what you just told everybody to seek. You have that understanding where you can, provide that empathy and help others struggling through it. Even here, you may not be talking to them personally, one-on-one, but you're talking to whoever listens to this particular video. And every time you're out there in your groups and you're sharing your poems and stuff like that, you're sharing a piece of that.
Yeah. And to change the world and to change the world for other people, we need people like you with strong voices. Because, if I can just wrap up your timeline pretty quickly of what I know about you. You were adopted at 2 and went to live, or 1, and then was starting, the molestation was starting at 2.
I think I was adopted when I was first born. It was a set adoption.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, so 2 is when everything started.
Yeah. The molestation started with you as a tiny little teeny weeny girl. And your mother, your monster mother, knew about what was going on too, didn't she?
Yeah,
about
she
what
knew.
Your monster father was actually doing. And she had multiple sclerosis, so she was very sick, which didn't excuse what was going on at all, and often she would get very jealous of her husband being with you too, because I remember you've said that to me before. Correct me at any time if this is a story or anything like that. So, and she would sit back and allow this to happen. What would you, and I remember you also shared with me that the first time that you ever told anyone what was actually going on was with a psychiatrist. I think you were 10 years old. Is that right?
They sent me to a psychologist, and I talked, and the psychologist did not believe me.
Yeah, the psychologist did not believe you. Yeah. So that in itself, if there's any other mental health professionals listening to this, that in itself is huge. I cannot believe that. What would you say to that mental health professional now if they were sitting in front of you, Alyse? What would you say?
What would I say? I don't think I can say the F word on here right now.
Yeah. What advice would you give to mental health professionals who have anybody coming in front of them?
Oh, you gotta be
children.
You gotta be careful.
Telling that.
You gotta look for the signs. You gotta be careful. They're the ones that aren't dressed. Their hair is not brushed. They're very quiet. They're the ones that the bullies pick on. Not that the bullies don't pick on other kids, but usually for some reason they can smell out a kid like that. And if the kid says something, believe them.
What would you say to family members who might have noticed but didn't do anything? Because I hear this a lot in private practice too. This is a common theme, that family members know what's going on but don't say anything. Unfortunately, it just does my head in.
You have to say something. The only way to save that child's life is to say something. Otherwise, that child is going to go through what I went through, and that's it's not good. It's not fair to that kid.
I want to say something right here about, I'm a guardian ad litem for dependency court, but one of the things in the state of Florida is that you don't have to be a guardian ad litem. You don't have to be a member of the court. You don't have to be a school teacher or a principal or a mental health expert to be required by law to report child abuse. And by a family member is required by law in the state of Florida to report child abuse. It doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter if you're a stranger walking on the beach. If you see child abuse, you're required by law to report it.
Oh, that's great.
This is something that I think maybe Florida, I don't know, how effective that law really is, but that seems like the most common sense, that anybody that sees that child abuse. And then when you're also putting in these visual effects that you were talking about, the hair's not being brushed, they're the ones probably slinking in the corner, they're not dressed appropriately, or most kids, when they go to school, they want to have style and fashion, they care about their appearance. Some kids that aren't necessarily showing that. So when you start piling these things up and you're combining them, mental health experts should be able to realize when a child is sharing the story and none of the visual stuff is there, then you might want to ask more questions. But when it is there, that's when you really should see the red flags, and some real concern should be setting in at this point.
Yeah. And we're mandatory reporters. Mental health workers are mandatory reporters. We have to report. We are trained to report. We're trained to look for what the signs are for. I'm not sure what it was like back then at that time. I'm not sure exactly what date we became mandatory reporters, but you have to report, because I'm sure little children like you slipped through the cracks, Alyse.
Yes, I definitely slipped through the cracks, and I'm sure I wasn't the only one.
Yeah, you weren't.
And now I don't want a child left behind or slip through the cracks. Please, if you see something, say something. Even if that person says, you know what, if you tell, I'm going to kill you or whatever, hit you, whatever. Just make an anonymous phone call about it. You know, if you're afraid for your life, then there's definitely something wrong if you're afraid for your life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I want to ask you a question about when you started having your own family, when you started having children of your own, was there a time there that you started feeling that transition of seeing things in a different way of what you had gone through before, all the bullying and stuff that you went through as a child, and now you have children, and what are they experiencing in their childhood, and how did that affect you to see that?
My thing was, I literally was overprotective. Didn't trust anybody. I was angry. I never hit them. Never, you know, even like when they did something they weren't supposed to, like if someone said, you know, like jokes about throwing a shoe at a kid or something like that. I never even did that. But I would get angry at myself because I would have these little panic attacks of becoming the monster itself. Now, this is really important because all that stuff happened to me. I thought that I was going to become them. I feared it so much, and I never did anything. And I went the total opposite way of protecting them, making sure that they know what, you know, don't touch. When don't touch means don't touch there, don't touch here, don't let people do this to you. I was already doing that with my kids. And then I guess they got tired of it. I even got a video of kids getting, you know, like one of those teaching videos where they teach kids about stranger danger. So I used to make them watch that. So they saw a lot of that. And then eventually my fear of becoming him slowly went away because I wasn't him.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of survivors have that mentality when it's severe, that they are afraid to become their worst nightmare.
I think that we hear that a lot in from childhood trauma and what they go through, that there's a worry that we'll repeat what we're taught.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's the same no matter what the trauma is. It's still something that you're taught, and so
yeah,
then you worry about it. And I think you know, I can relate to going to that opposite extreme of making sure I do nothing like what my childhood was, and I can see that you're saying the same thing. So that seems like a commonality between, you know, when you have that moment where you're starting to realize and seeing that and wanting to protect children.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
So have you taken the you've heard about the ACEs studies, the adverse childhood experiences? Have you heard of that?
I mean, maybe I did it and it wasn't called that at the time, or I'm not.
Is it a newer study, Alyse? It might be new, but what they're using this now, and I think it's great that they're using this now. I wish it would have been something that we had before.
Yeah.
This ACEs study really evaluates, there's 10 questions in general
I'll be back.
that you ask children, and in the school systems, they're able to determine that maybe their behavior is due to some kind of stress in their life. So these 10 questions relate to those stress triggers or events.
Oh, that is so great. My kids are older now, and I have grandkids. I'm sure that's great.
So this is going to help in the school systems where they're actually seeing that trauma does cause a lot of issues in the behavior of children, because children haven't developed enough to understand the emotions or the pain that they're suffering, and this pain is acting out in class, or they're the ones that are getting bullied because they're just so traumatized they just can't even function on a normal level, and so they're easy targets.
Yeah.
And now I think it's finally coming around to where they're starting to pay attention to what a child may be going through at home or somewhere else, which is a good and big improvement.
So I found my notes on the ACEs study. It was really good actually to do it with you, Alyse, but just so you know, and anybody else out there who's listening, in the mid-90s, one of the largest investigations of childhood abuse and neglect and household challenges and later life health and well-being studies was conducted at Kaiser Permanente and the CDC, so that's Centre for Disease Control, with over 17,000 adults completing surveys on childhood experiences, current health and behaviours. So basically, it's something that everybody needs to know about for sure. So I read everything I can get my hands on a lot of the time, but it basically shows you the effects of adversity and on your brain and bodies of children. So it asks questions about physical, emotional, sexual abuse, physical, emotional neglect, parental mental illness, substance dependence, I can't read that word that I've written there, domestic violence, loss of a parent. So it asks you these 10 questions, and for example, one of the questions is, did anyone in your house swear at you, insult you, put you down, humiliate you, or act in a way that made you afraid, or you may be physically hurt, so you'd get a 1 for that. And then did anyone push, grab, throw you, you'd get another 1 for that. Did anyone touch, fondle you in a sexual way, attempt to have intercourse with you, you'd get another point for that one. And then have your parents been divorced, you get another 1. So out of 10, once you do this questionnaire, you can see exactly where you're sitting within the ACEs score, and then anybody who gets an ACE score of 4 or more are at risk of different diseases. So I think I rated an 8 on the ACEs score, which I wasn't very happy about. So that also tells me that anyone at 4 or above is at risk of chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, 2.5 times that of someone with an ACE score of 0. You're 2.5 times more likely to get hepatitis. You're 4.5 times more likely to get depression. Suicidality sits at 12 times more likely if you're scoring higher in the ACEs score. And a person with an ACE score of 7 or more has triple the lifetime risk of lung cancer, 3.5 times the risk of ischemic heart disease, which is the #1 killer in America. So, so you basically, the ACE scores are correlated against health outcomes, and the ACEs are incredibly common, they're saying. So 67% of the 17,500 people who were measured had 1 ACE score, and 12.6 had 4 or more ACEs, and they found that the higher the ACE score, the worse your health outcomes are. So, and this wasn't taken from a demographic of people who were in sort of a challenged class. So they weren't a vulnerable class of people, they were middle class people that the ACE scores were done on. So so that's very, when I first reading about ACEs, I thought they must be potentially doing the demographic that has a lot of challenges, but they weren't. They were the middle demographic, so who were quite privileged people too, I believe. So That was pretty interesting. So anyone who wants to find out what their ACEs
Yes,
score is
please.
can just
Yeah.
go on the internet and have a look at it. And we can do it, Alyse. And you just go through the questions and see what your ACEs score is. And and the other thing I wanted to share too, I didn't want to interrupt you before, but EMDR therapy stands for eye movement desensitization and reprocessing therapy. So it's an interactive psychotherapy technique used to relieve psychological stress, as in PTSD usually. So you relive distressing events in brief doses while the therapist directs eye movements. And for Alyse, that's worked beautifully, and it's EMDR is definitely something that we use a lot for PTSD.
Yeah.
And I'm really glad to hear that it's worked well for you.
Yeah, it did. It opened up a whole world for me. It was really hard to do at first. But then it got easier. Like, I mean, there were sessions where I would just cry the whole session. And she had put these little shock things on my hands. So the shocks would go back and forth as I was remembering. And the way it was put is that you're got something else to occupy your mind, I think, while you are remembering this, and then eventually it's either a train or a movie theater and you're watching it, you're not in it. And
So you're stepping out of it, more or less.
You're sitting there, and I used a train for some reason. I was like sitting at the train station, and I was just watching the train go by. At first I was in the train, but then somehow I came out of the train, and that's when I knew that this was working for me and I was getting better. Some people use the movie theater, that they're sitting there. Like, you can't say that you can look at your life and you can be okay with looking at your life. You don't break down and cry, and you don't have that anxiety breakdown like you do. That's what it taught me. But there are a lot of times when I still have days where I have flashbacks. I have, because of the post-traumatic stress disorder, I have depression, and I live with this every day of my life, but I learned who I am. I became who I am because of all these nasty, horrible things that happened to me, put me in this seat right in front of you and Alyse today. And believe me, it took a long time to get here.
Yeah. It takes a lot of work and a lot of strength and a lot of determination because this stuff is not fun to work through.
No.
And getting here is an achievement. Huge.
Yeah, it's like, that's why it's like you have to go through, like my psychologist always says, you have to go through the tunnel to see the light.
Yes.
And I believe that because I had to visualize tunnels and visualize bridges to cross. And sometimes I couldn't get across them right away. Sometimes I could get across them. It's a lot of mental work that you're doing that can get very tiring at times. But I had to do it. I shouldn't say I had to. I wanted to do it because I look at it this way. I'm going to not use my life, but my life is not going to be in vain. My life is going to be used to help the ones that don't have a voice. And it started with writing, and it started with a blog, and now it's going to me speaking, and writing is easier for me, obviously, you know, I'm learning as I go along. But I really, if there's someone there that's listening to this right now, if you know a child that, or if you know someone that has gone through anything abusive, please tell somebody, help them. You know, I know that you don't have to say your name. This has to stop. It just can't be like this. So these kids one day are going to be here and we're not. And you want these kids to be better than we are and have a better world.
So on that note, can I just mention the model here?
Yes.
Because this is the model that is written. It's the model that's in my background here, the Senpai Social Communication Model. This is the model that we use with children. So this is written for children. It's a model that you can use with children. Children can use it with each other. And it basically asks them, how's your senpai? The children learn it in the schools now. They go through it with each other, and it teaches them how to have a voice, and it teaches them how to recognize when something's wrong with one of their friends and what to do about it. So if we basically say to the kids, are you okay? If they say no, the children say, how's your senpai? So senpai basically this is the little brochure that we have in all the schools, and it basically gets the kids to go through and ask each other about how you're sleeping, do you feel safe, and write down the bottom if they need any extra help, they can ask an adult or a mentor or a teacher, an older person. Then we talk to them. They go through emotions, all the different emotions they might be feeling. And what this does is it gets children who are like all three of us when we were very, very little to actually be heard. So
yeah, that's amazing. I love that.
Yeah, so when we go through and we talk about emotions, I'm not sure if that's blurring or not.
No, I can see.
Yeah, so the children just ask the questions. It's not a counseling model. They just ask each other the questions. So we've got, are you having trouble going to sleep? Did you get enough sleep? Did you have any dreams you would like to speak about? Did something wake you up?
You want to hold that up again?
Yeah, do you feel safe where you sleep? These are all questions that the children ask and adults can ask. And for a child who's being sexually abused, these questions will really bring up a lot of stuff. For children who aren't, they're pretty generic and they won't really, they'll say, yeah, I had a few dreams, got woken up by the cat. But if you have a child who's having any kind of abuse going on, this is where they actually get a chance to speak about it if they want to. So when we go through to emotion, how does your body feel? Happy, sad, calm, mixed up inside, upset, excited, worried, lonely, embarrassed, shy. So it gives them another opportunity to try and name some of the feelings that they're having. And then M stands for meals and clothing. So we go through and check out if the child is eating, is have enough clothes, if they're warm, if they're cool, if they're, do they need any help? Do they need to go and talk to an older person? Because a lot of the kids, when we ask this in school, they haven't had breakfast. Often a lot of them don't have lunch, and it's not until we ask these questions that we actually know. And then we've got physical health, which is P. So we go into this, and these are all the 5 different needs that we need met to be happy human beings. We need to have all of these things in place. So how is your body feeling today? Well or sick? If you're feeling sick, do you know where? Is there something I can get you so you feel better? Do you need a rest? Are you feeling any pain? Do you have a story about your pain or sickness? Do you think, Alyse, if someone had sat with you and done the senpai model with you, that a teacher or anybody that you actually may have spoken to them about what was going on with you.
Yeah, they would know. What you got there is gold. It's so perfect, dead on. Matter of fact, if you can send that to me, and I'm going to put it on my blog, because that thing's amazing. It's like, it's geared toward kids and the way they think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's for kids, for kids to help other kids, and for adults to help the kids. And the last question is inclusion. This is major. I wrote this because for children in parental alienation, like I grew up and like Dawn grew up, because that's our story, inclusion wasn't something that was big in our lives. I don't remember feeling very included, really, but it's about, are you feeling part of your school group? Are you feeling part of your community with your family and friends? Are you feeling included, left out, or lonely? Is there a story behind your feelings? Can you imagine? Because I remember, Alyse, you speaking to me previously about how your monster father did not really like you going out and being with other friends.
Yeah.
So this speaks to that space. And yeah, would you like to feel more included? Do you have any ideas about this? So it also empowers the child to think for themselves too. And then right at the bottom, would you like an older person to help? So if it's too big for the two children, they go and get another person. So they can sit with this and go through. And I have kids who go through this model and they come up to me and they're like, oh my God, I think my friend's suicidal. Oh my God, this is what I'm being told when I'm listening to this model. Can you go and talk to them? Can you see them? Can you do something with them? And then we know what's going on. Sometimes it can come from the children. The children can be community first responders just as much as we can. We need to empower. That's what this does. It empowers the children to become community first responders instead of just silent little kids watching.
Exactly.
It teaches kids how to ask the questions, what questions to ask, what to look for in their friends, when to say something, and teaches them how to have a voice. And I wrote this for children like you, me, Dawn, who didn't have voices. That's why I wrote this model, to save there from going through what we experienced for as long as we did.
Yeah. That thing is amazing.
But I wanted to talk to you too. Sorry, Dawn.
I was just saying, can you imagine having that communication, that openness of the communication, and actually having someone listen to us and believe what we're saying? Everything.
It will
and then
change.
the children have no problem with asking these questions. It's the adults that struggle with it, because the adults get scared. If they say, are you okay? And the adult says no, it's like, gotta go. They don't know how to have a deeper level conversation. So that's what the adults version teaches adults, but this is the children's version. That's why I'm referring to it in this space now. So they're free. If you want a copy of it, if you want to learn it, go on my senpai.net. You download it. I've got it in about 20 countries, schools, hospitals,
military,
homeless shelters. It's everywhere.
Now, what can I just like go into, like, let's say a shelter or maybe an ice cream shop where a lot of kids hang out, and ask the guys if I can leave it there?
Oh gosh, yeah. Oh yeah,
Okay.
yeah, absolutely. You can even teach the groups. So it's a pay it forward. It's an altruistic, reciprocal pay it forward model. So you teach one person and they pay it forward to the next couple of people, or one person. You can get a group and sit and teach it, and then have the group all go around and ask each other, how's your senpai, go through all the questions, sit with each other, and drop down to a deeper level of communication. It's not a counseling model, it's a listener sharer model, so everybody is empowered. It changes the power imbalance altogether.
Yeah.
Puts you all on the same level.
Same page. Yes. I totally got it.
Absolutely.
Free, except for the cost of ink, you know, so.
Yeah, you just download the PDF your end. This is how I get it across the world, and I don't need any funding. I released it. It took me about 6 years to write, and I just released it because of the people that I work with who don't have access to good mental health, and it also trains the community how to sit with each other instead of constantly outsourcing to psychologists, psychotherapists, blah, 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 all the time. We teach them basic communication skills first before they go out to the mental health professionals or anyone else. Let's give it a shot here first and then go out. So the police use it too a lot with people who are having a lot of trouble at home, to teach them how to communicate with each other as well. Lowers domestic violence. It's doing a lot of things out in the community. So
now, do you I'm sorry, do you put your phone number down where you are? Do you personally put like your phone number down on the bottom?
No. Oh, well, whoever's teaching it, if you go on the website, there's actually a group flyer. You can download it and write your own phone number in there so people can contact you and learn it from you. Or they can write their own phone number in once they've learnt it and pin it up in their community centre and teach it in their community as well. So, yeah.
Yeah,
So
I'm done.
Definitely.
Yeah.
It's just a community resource that we use to teach people how to have a voice. But having said that, I really wanted, before we end, to talk to you about the word abandonment. Like, what does abandonment mean to you, Alyse? And what does that have in, like, what place does that have in your life and your heart? And because abandonment's a big part of my story, a big part of Dawn's story. Is it a big part of your story as well?
Yeah, abandonment is my mother, my real mother, my genetic mother, leaving me and not knowing who she is or where she is or why she did what she did. And there's a hole in my soul or my heart, and there always will be. But that would definitely be the abandonment issue with, and the abandonment of my parents. Or actually just, they never sat and talked to me. They basically, when they were having dinner, they were throwing pasta dishes at each other. They weren't fighting. They were fighting with me. It was just a bad situation. So abandonment is in every frame of my life. And when I see it, like if I'm out or something like that, and I see a mother, or like, I'm a people watcher. And you kind of get to know, and I see it, and I'm like, oh wow, she's really not paying attention to her kid. So my friend's the same way, but she didn't have my experience. So I end up going up to the kid and say, you okay? Is your mom here? And oh yeah, my mom's right up there. Why is your mom in front of you? It's like, it's a automatic thing with me.
That's interesting to hear that, and maybe you feel this way. I felt like this, where you wonder why did you bother? What was the purpose of all this? And if you had something to say to your biological mother right now, what would you say to her?
I would say, do you know what you did to me?
The result?
Yes. Did you know what? Yeah, would be the first thing. Or maybe not coming out at it at first, maybe just talking and saying, well, you left me with these people. She literally just dumped me with these people. This is what I feel.
You know them? She chose them?
Yeah. She chose them, thinking that they were sane, but they're not. You know, they were crazy, and it's just I can't find her. You know, so I feel abandoned by her, but I can't. You know, it's like,
So did they legally adopt you at that point? Was there any
yeah.
social
First,
work involved in this at all?
it is so locked up and hidden in a drawer in Florida, Dade County, that I can't even get to any of those papers.
What the heck?
So I
Are you
think
kidding?
isn't there a new law though that gives you the right to know?
In New York, only in New York, because I called
There's one here too.
and they're like, well, I'm sorry, ma'am, we
Someone steal
can't.
my birth certificate.
Well, they said that, well, this is what they told me, that what birth certificate do you have? Well, I have, these people are not my genetic parents. Well, we're going to give you the same birth certificate. No, I don't want that one.
Jacksonville at this point, biostatistics? Because that sounds exactly like what they told me when I was asking for.
Yeah.
So this is their standard answer.
And it's like, I just want her name, you know? I want to see who I look like, or, you know?
That
It's your human right to know that. I don't understand why
I don't
they would
get
make
it.
that difficult. I don't understand why they're doing that.
protecting the parent, because maybe the parent doesn't want to be contacted, or whatever reason, for, they're protecting them as well.
Yeah, I get that part, but I don't get it. Yeah.
No, I know what you mean. Yeah, it's like,
Yeah.
now
you can take a DNA test on Ancestry or 23andMe, or
I did that.
you can find relatives, living relatives that way, so you could still.
Yeah, I found my father and my sister, so now I have a sister and a father and a brother, but I still don't know who my mother is. But that helps that I know who my father is, but he died.
Oh wow! And your sister has a different mother.
Mm-hmm. But she talks to me, and we're taking it slow, you know. So it's kind of weird for me to say I have a sister, and for her to say I have a sister.
So if there's anybody watching at the moment who can help Alyse at this point, any lawyers or anybody who knows this system, how to get around it, or can help her in any way, could you please contact us through Humanly Possible, so that maybe we can find out who Alyse's mum is and put those pieces of the puzzle together. Because what is it like? I mean, the abandonment, just major wound. We could help with that wound if we could find somebody who could actually help to find, even if you just, are you after, like, ultimately I suppose to potentially meet her, but even to just find out some snippet of information about who you are, what her
even a picture
is, a picture, anything at all.
Absolutely. Those things are I think something that, a lot of us that have lost contact with a parent seek. I mean, we really need that to answer our questions, those deep curiosities that never go away. And you were very young. You were an infant, and you still have those curiosities, because it's genetic. That desire is genetic. There's no way you can get rid of needing to know.
It was thrown in my face by my mother all the time. So by my monster mother, she threw it in my face. So
no, bad form. So do you even have her name or anything, Alyse?
Yes, I have her name. It's Arlene, and the last name is Patchel.
So Arlene Patchel.
Yep.
And
so anybody out there who happens to be watching knows anybody or knew anyone called Arlene Patchel,
and this was in
they potentially
1967, born June 18th.
Born June 18th. Okay. Anybody who has any nurse or anybody out there who might remember anything about this? Yep. Any adoption agency? I don't know. Anybody who just does not good situation.
Vital statistics. Yeah, that's what they told me, and they
Okay.
didn't help me.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there's got to be someone out there that, maybe knows her or somebody, or maybe she's had other children. Maybe she's got other living family, relatives.
Yeah. Yeah.
There could be a slew of answers that, we will never have closure without answers.
Exactly. Yes. It's just a big question mark over our heads.
Mm-hmm.
And some people nobody gets it.
Can comfort that. There's
No.
not a thing in this world that will satisfy or that or satiate that desire, that hunger of knowing, because it's a hole, and these holes have to be filled, and the only way that we can fill them and heal these wounds is by that connection.
Yes.
Yeah.
I totally agree.
How else does it impact you? Like for us with our PA stuff, it affects birthdays, weddings, funerals, like just
Mother's Day and Father's Day are the worst days of my life. Don't like it.
Yeah,
even though
I'm a mother.
Even though I'm a mother and my husband, it doesn't matter. Mother's Day, everybody in my family knows, just leave me alone.
That's so sad.
Yeah.
So sorry that this happens to you or to anybody else. It's horrific. It should never happen to anybody.
It should never happen to anybody. Never.
And I can't even begin to explain how it makes me feel with a 1-year-old, an infant child. I mean, that is the worst thing in the world that anybody can do, and they should be condemned for that. They should pay for what they've done, and we need this from happening in the future.
And they're dead now, so.
Do you think that the two monsters who adopted you were vetted at all? Like, how did they get through the system, Alyse?
I think because the monster had a lot of money and he could throw it around, and my monster mother couldn't have another kid because she had a hysterectomy because of the MS. She wanted another kid, so there I was.
So they bought you from your biological?
They bought me from my biological mother, and she took the money and ran.
So do you have any idea her age or situation?
I don't know her situation. I know I'm going to be 53 June 18th. So, see, math is not my strongest point, but I'm guessing she was 22, maybe 21 when she was pregnant with me. If the math is calculated correctly. I just saw a note after they had died with the lawyer saying, I give up this child for so-and-so amount of money. And my name is Arlene Patchell, and I want to go to school and all this stuff.
Wow.
I mean, I can't blame her for what happened to me, but I still have a hole because I don't know who she is.
Yeah, I mean, she may not have had any idea what they were going to do. We have.
I hope not. I really pray.
You know her. You have to meet her to know that.
Ask those questions for yourself. Absolutely, because really now we're talking trafficking stuff, really, aren't we? Like who's just selling children
they legally trafficked you.
My God, I never thought of it that way.
Well, they put the dollar amount on the record.
Yeah. They bought her a place to live in Dade County, and she lived there until she had me, and that's as far as I know.
Yeah, we can't sell kidneys or other organs, but we can sell a whole child.
Yeah. I And
see, even under those circumstances, couldn't that have been illegal in the first place? So I'm just wondering, I'm not a lawyer, but wouldn't that put a loophole in the system about not being able to disclose who the mother was if that transaction's actually taken place?
I
This is
think
what
that
I'm
there,
wondering.
I wonder that all the time.
They
I
went,
wondered myself, I
So was it
wondered
legal?
myself crazy.
Yeah.
But
But I'm just talking to any legal professional out there who may know the answer to this. Like, if it wasn't done legally in the first place, does that still mean that the records remain sealed?
yeah, you should be able to unseal them if you
can somebody please help me unseal them? You know,
Yeah.
that's all I'm asking, you know.
Florida. I was born in Florida, and I unsealed my birth record. I did it myself. I called the statistics department, vital statistics.
Yeah.
I filled out their form, and they unsealed the record. However, they did give me a copy of it, but at the bottom of it, they wrote my adopted parents that, you know, still had legal, he's still my legal father.
But you had like his name though, right?
Name was put back in my biological father. My original birth certificate was restored, except for the fact that they noted it on the bottom that I had been adopted by so-and-so. So I'm still legally not a member of my real family. I'm still legally a member of this monster family that I was adopted into. So
yeah,
you know, I call mine the demon, but same difference.
Hey, same thing, right?
Yeah. So, but I was able to at least do that. Now my next goal is to reverse my adoption and reestablish my dad as my biological, or as my legal father. Even though both of my dads are now passed on, I still want to have that restored because I am not a member of my own family, and that's not good for me. I mean, that's just not going to set easy. I'm not technically a legal sister to my brothers. I'm not legally an aunt. I'm not legally a cousin, and that's just wrong. And I'm the one that can stand up and say, that is not my family. Who you is not my family. You know, I can show you through my, you know, DNA research that I've done, you know, I know who my family is. Now I just need the records to show, to reflect.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, and I know exactly how you feel because I feel the same way.
Yes. So, I hope someone is listening that can.
Yeah.
Yes, listen.
Or if anybody knows anybody who hasn't seen this interview, who may know somebody who deals in this area, can you please talk to them? Please talk to them for Alyse so that she can at least get some answers and some peace of mind and heal her abandonment, because it's one, I don't think it was legal.
I never thought of it the way you put it, but yeah, that's the way it went down. So
it can't possibly, it just doesn't, it blows my mind that it was even allowed to happen. So
well, the way you described it, to me, I would bet that there's a lot of I's that are not dotted and a lot of T's that aren't.
Yeah.
Oh,
which would
God,
make it not valid, wouldn't it, Dawn? I'm thinking. Yeah.
And if you can show that, maybe there's a chance that you can, you know, force the release of your birth records.
Yeah, that's what I'm wondering.
Yeah, they
steal them.
They were like, oh, you're gonna need a lawyer. I'm like, well, I don't have money for a lawyer, so why can't you just send me my pass? That's all I want. You know, like for a lawyer to fly down to Florida and get those papers, I have to pay for that?
I did it from Washington State. I called them for a document that I can use to unseal my birth certificate, my official one, have it reestablished, because I've even taken back my birth name, which you see on the screen, which is why I display that name, because that's the name that my father gave me.
Okay.
And when I took my identity back, I took my life back by saying, I am Dawn Andrea McCarty, and nobody can tell me otherwise.
Yeah.
And I had that reestablished on my birth certificate.
Good. That would be,
That's taking control of our identity.
Let's put that heaps on our Humanly Possible challenge. We'll actually do a post on it and keep it up there as a big message.
Oh yeah,
with her name and everything, so that we can maybe just put it out there in the universe and get all the help we can possibly think of.
Yeah, maybe
Because there's
someone
a
else
lot
who's
of people,
is going through the same thing.
yeah, absolutely. Yep. Yep. So is there anything else that you would like to add, Alyse, or any messages that you have for children who might be going through it, teenagers, older, adults who have not spoken about what's happened? What advice would you give them?
Especially those that are afraid.
Yeah, most of them are afraid. They think that they're going to get, you know, patronized or hate, you know, or something, or maybe their family members are alive and they don't want to talk. But what I would say was start writing first.
Yes.
This way it's only with you and you are letting it go when you're writing it.
Speaking of that.
Yes. Let's talk about your amazing ability of writing and sharing in your poems and the blogs that you do. Let's talk about that, because that's amazing, and let's get people following you.
I am going to open up something we're going to share with everybody really fast.
In my head again. I know you can see what I'm thinking because it reads on my face. Time to ease the pace, for my anxiety takes over me. Let it flow, until I am free from this insanity. I need a filter in my mind to say what I mean, not what I don't. Shit, I hate this. Where is everybody? Did I push them away today? I wanted to be alone. Now I long for a friendly tone. Gray skies turn blue, and the thunderstorms roll on through. Wait, I can see the rainbow at the end. Learning to catch myself when I get that way. Too much tension, I need to pull the ripcord and set myself to flying free. Too much time, not enough time. Pressure can surround me that I place on myself. I own it all. I hate. I love. I also swear too much. I can be confusing. Some would say I am quite amusing. I can be fearful. I can also be fearless. I am human and humble. I am me. Are you true to you? I'm flying free, not afraid to fall, knowing I can be flying free. As I catch myself just wanting to be me, flying free, not afraid to fall, knowing I can be flying free. As I catch myself just wanting to be me, flying free. Oh, flying free, not afraid to fall, knowing I can be flying free. Oh, flying free, as I catch myself just wanting to be me, flying free. Oh, flying free. Oh, flying free.
They did a really good job.
This is deaf community clapping.
Yeah. They put my dog in it. It's so cute.
Hearing impaired. I'm sorry, I should have said hearing impaired. Yes, beautiful, Alyse. Absolutely amazing. Very, very powerful. And thank you to Caroline and Noel as well.
Oh my God. Yes. If they're listening, thank you so much.
Yeah, I've seen them do that a couple of times, and I just love how they put the lyrics and stuff to words. And
your voice is really low, Dawn.
oh, because I moved the microphone over there. Thanks for reminding me. Yeah, I mean, I think it's great how they can put music and you know,
it's still low.
Yeah,
it's still your words. And you know, what inspired that from you?
I
I
can't hear you
don't.
very well, Dawn.
Still can't hear me very well?
No.
Nothing changed on the mic?
Yeah, that's better. Yep.
Oh, I just had to turn the speaker down.
I just write. I just like get this it's more like a melody. I can't write or sing like he does, but I get a melody in my head, and then I just start writing something down, and that's how.
So as it
And
comes
then,
to you.
yeah, and it's always something about I'm feeling that day, or it could be something I went through. I had one person like go, "Oh my God, are you okay?" I'm like, "Don't worry, this is an old poem, you know."
Yeah.
But they mostly come to me like through just seeing a movie, or sometimes most of the time the funny thing is it's in the car.
Yeah.
I don't know why. And then if I'm not driving, I'm lucky and I get to actually put the words into my phone.
That's interesting that you say that, because when I'm in the car is when I do most of my I told Alyse, you know, when I finally had a breakthrough with my stepdad, it was in the car.
What is it about the car?
I don't know, but I screamed my head off for an hour until I lost my voice. I literally lost my voice because I had that much to say. And, you know,
that's great.
You know, maybe it's because you're confined and you're in a, you know, it's just you in the car, and you know,
it could be, yeah.
And
you know,
you're out of your normal world. You're out of your normal space. That's what it's like for me in mine. When I'm driving, I've got my music up full bore. It's very dependent on the music, can be very emotional depending on what's coming through for me. If I'm in process, I can think clearly because I'm going somewhere. I've got no distractions.
True, yeah.
That's the space I'm in.
Yeah, and you know, no matter where it is, as long as you have that, you know, we have to have that breakdown so we can break through and we can build up again. And it's very important that we don't shy away from that breakdown. And I think a lot of us do tend to resist it because we don't want to be known as, you know, we had a breakdown. And I'm not talking about an actual breakdown, but you know, you get to a point now where you say, okay, enough's enough. And now I have to change, because if I keep going down this way, it's gonna be worse, and I need to turn around and start going the opposite direction.
Yeah, 100%. 100% on that.
That's what we all have in common, is we've done a lot of therapy, and now we talk about the trauma. So it's shining light on it, giving other people a voice, teaching them that you can come through, and our stories are same but different. And people can recover. It's a choice.
Yeah,
it's really hard work, but it's a choice. You either go down journey road or you go down addiction road.
Yeah.
I want to read something in here from Bill McGee in the comments. He said he doesn't have any questions, but he would just like to commend you for your courage, and that he wishes you well. And then Sherry said good.
Thank you. Tell him I said thank you from the bottom of my heart.
They just heard you. And you know, it does take a lot of courage, and we commend you as well. And we thank you so much for joining us tonight and sharing your story. I know it's not an easy one to share, but you know, you're sharing because you don't want someone else to go through the same thing that you've gone through. And if you can protect one child, you know, that is huge. It really is. It's huge.
Yeah.
So
And what are your blogs, Alyse? So do you want to talk quickly about your Facebook pages
well,
so people can follow you?
Well, what I have is I had to go private because I was invaded, if you want to call it, in my my other one, and that never happened again.
you were what in your other one?
They invaded my entire Facebook, or you know,
Yeah.
like stole everything from me. So I went private, and now I call it
Wow.
Heroes Are Everywhere.
Is that the name of it?
Yeah, wait, let me see. Let's see. If I can, it's a small thing, but if you can, I don't think you can see it on mine.
I'm gonna try and look it up so I can put it in the
Okay.
Heroes Are All Around You or Everywhere?
Oh no, heroes are all around you, and you'll see a girl with angels in battle.
Yeah, okay, I recognize that. Okay.
Yeah, and then that's my personal one. And then I help people out. They can write in here. A lot of people write their own stories in here. That's why it's private.
Okay.
You know my story, you see all my writing, and then you see also other people writing. And then there's, let's see, there's some here. I want to shout out to the Recovery Compass.
The Recovery what?
The Recovery Compass. He's a friend of mine. His name is Richard. His hand is holding a compass. He's public now. Oh, he went public. Okay. And then
See him.
there is the Visual Storyteller, which is the first group that I really started writing in. The guy actually who runs it, Joe, he asked me to come an admin. So I'm an admin on his page, and it's a private poetry page, and a lot of people.
Warrior Poet Project?
It's the visual. He changed it to the Visual Storyteller.
I have Teller, and then it says / Warrior Poetry Project.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
him. And then I'm just doing shout outs now. And then there's the addiction
chat for you too.
Yeah, and then there's addiction recovery, huh?
I'm putting him in the chat in here for you too.
Oh, okay. And there's addiction recovery, which I love absolutely everybody in that page. If you have a problem with alcohol or anything like that, that's an amazing page. The people there are great. So it's just addiction recovery. Oh, that was a chair.
Yeah. I just want to shout out to everybody who's going through addiction stuff and healing work at the same time, because that's a very, very tricky, hard space. Just keep walking, keep walking, keep
and
walking.
These people are just amazing.
What was this group again? The last one?
Absolutely amazing.
It's addiction recovery.
Recovery, just plain recovery.
Yeah, it's just capital addiction recovery. That's it, and it's a gray.
Story in it?
No, it says thank you for all of your part in our journey, Donna and John. It's green.
I see professionals in recovery.
It's all it's all capitalized. If that helps any.
No, let's see. Let me share.
Okay.
Okay.
Oh, good. Okay, that's not it. No. Why does it say that? It's just addiction. Oh, no, I'm sorry. Addiction recovery group.
Okay. Group or support group?
Just group.
Everybody's watching us as we do this. Is this one it?
Addiction recovery group. Is that green?
Yeah.
No,
click that one.
No, I didn't look
No,
green.
no, that's not it. That's different.
Yeah. There's another one a bit lower, Dawn, that's green. See? Yeah, there's two.
Did he change it? Did they change it?
There's one with people holding hands up.
Yeah, he just.
Is
they
that
just
it?
No, that's
No,
not
it
it.
could
This
be
is
the
what.
other one.
Well, how about we'll find that and add it? I can always add it later.
Yeah, or they can, or I can send it to,
Yeah,
whoever is
send me the
interested
link.
in it.
To add it to here as well.
And the other, well, I'm getting actually messages on my phone about this thing that we just did.
Are there any questions, Alyse, that you'd like to answer?
We don't know if you're watching a watch party. We cannot see your questions, so unless you come onto the live video, we won't be able to see them. And hopefully, we'll be able to find them eventually if we can get to the watch party page. So if you're watching the watch party and you've asked questions and no one's answered, that's because we can't see them. So come join the live version on Humanly Possible's channel, and then we'll be able to see your questions. We're only going to be here for a few more minutes, so
yeah, there's only one more. It's called where is it? Group, and then they're just great, amazing people groups that really, on days you're down and you write, they really pick you up. Okay. It's called Beautiful Disaster Tribe.
oh, that came right up.
Beautiful Disaster Tribe.
Yeah, now they do. I'm not trying to sell their clothing. That's not what I'm trying to do. But I know that the people who are in it have are a lot like us that write. So
Okay.
it's an outlet to write.
And it looks like the t-shirt design, Beautiful Disaster, and then tribe in white block with black letters.
Yeah, that's pretty much their t-shirt. Yeah.
I just want to make sure I had the right one.
Yeah.
And there's another support group too that I want to shout out to. It's called the Gatehouse in Toronto, Canada.
Okay.
They're pretty easy to find. So the Gatehouse, let me have a quick read of this. The Gatehouse have a lot of programs. They're a huge organisation as well who give a voice to adult children of sexual abuse. So if you just look up thegatehouse.org, you can go straight to their website and have a look at all the different things that they're doing, because they run a lot of programs and services. They've got people to speak to, and their vision is a future for those impacted by childhood sexual abuse. You can heal and reclaim your voices. So they provide support, community, and resources for individuals impacted by childhood sexual abuse. So they've got a formal and informal support and outreach.
Are they on Facebook?
I would love to get together with them.
Yeah. So the two that I speak to are Nicola and Stuart. Stuart has Blog Talk Radio, and he does interviews as well with adult survivors of CSA. So you can go on there and have a listen to all of his interviews too, because he's done lots of them. So if you want to hear other adult survivor interviews as well as Alyse's, you can go on there and have a listen to that as well. There's a few resources. That's a very good one, that one.
Is this the one?
Gatehouse, by taking action.
Yes, that's them. Yep, that's them. So they're on Twitter, they're on Facebook. Yeah, so they're big on Twitter. So yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yep. So on that note, is there anything else that you'd like to add at all, Alyse, before we finish?
Not much, but just to thank the two of you for giving me the chance for people to hear me talk and see my face, because I always write. This is something I want to move up to is to speak and you see me more instead of my writing, or I, you know, and make more videos. So this is just, I'm so blessed by you guys letting me do this.
Well, we're grateful that you're here, and we have the
Yeah.
Humanly Possible channel. So you actually have a place that you can go and use your voice. So you
Oh,
can
okay.
join us. I mean, we can do pre-recordings if you'd like. We can choose a different day of the week if you'd like. So we have some flexibility there.
Oh yes, let's
And
definitely.
then
I'm there.
if you know, maybe you build it into your into an actual show.
Could be. Yeah, thank you. That, yeah, I would definitely take that experience and from you.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
thank you
can
so
always
much.
you can always do little mini videos too, and we can post them up, Alyse, if you've got tips or little stories or whatever you want, ideas for people.
Mhm.
We'll put them up for you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Poetry, all sorts of stuff. That's what Humanly Possible Challenge is about. Anyone who's trying to change their world for the better, anything that is humanly possible is the message that we're getting out there.
Yes.
So you're definitely one of the people who are doing that, trying to change the world for the better.
Yes.
So, yeah.
One person at a time.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly.
absolutely.
One person at a time.
Yep, exactly.
So thank you so much, Alyse, for being with us today and speaking to us, and we'll finish the interview. Do you have anything else you'd like to add, Dawn? And then we'll have a little chat with you and just see if there's anything that you were triggered by or want to discuss after the interview before we go. Yeah.
Just that I admire you for
me too.
For standing up and being strong and you know, speaking with your voice for those that don't have one. So we need more of people like that. So thank you for being the voice for those that don't have one.
No, thank you guys for letting me vocalize it, you know.
Yeah. All right.
You guys do the same thing.
I didn't mean to cut you off. Everybody, thank you so much for joining us and for listening to this very heartfelt interview. We will see you next week on the Humanly Possible Channel Families Edition. Thank you. Good night.
Thank you. Night.
Bye.